Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're doing well this Friday afternoon UK time, wherever you are in the world. My name is Carl. You're welcome to this webinar. I just forgot to turn my mobile phone off. That was terrible. Very unprofessional. Welcome to this webinar about me, basically. So for anyone that's been tuning in the last, I guess, almost a year, Alan will know. Alan is monitoring the chat for us. So any comments that are put into the chat come from our very knowledgeable Alan. For the last year, we've been doing webinars on various themes on a Friday. And a few of you have asked if I could talk about my career, I guess, my life in TEFL. So that's basically what I'm going to do. But I don't want this to be just me chatting along, no one else asking anything. So if you've got any questions at all to do with the industry of teaching English as a foreign language, please put them in the chat and please say hello wherever you are in the world. I can see Jeremy, hello, Sarah, Larry, Ben in Leeds, John in Minnesota, lovely. Claudia, Wendy, Laura, Ruth, hello everybody. So any questions you have about teaching English as a foreign language, please put them in the chat and I will stop every now and again from talking about my experience and answer the questions. So where did it all start for me? Basically, I did a certification like the ones that you might be already doing or ones that you are thinking of doing. I did one of those certificates in about, let me think, it must have been about 2003. So I had spent many years just mucking about doing various jobs, and I decided I wanted to go traveling around the world. So I did a 120-hour certificate about that time. And I did it, and believe it or not, I then started working in the UK with it. So my first jobs were running some language schools. So I ran some summer schools in southeast of England. I also worked as a teacher in South Wales. So my big dream of getting abroad didn't really start that well. So that's what happened basically. And then from that, I then eventually got to Vietnam, and I worked in Vietnam for a university in Ho Chi Minh City. I lived there for about a year and I taught adults who were basically, there's something called academic English. And basically what that is you get people who might have a quite a good level of English, you get them into an academic mindset of writing essays, giving presentations, all that kind of thing. And I did that for a year and I absolutely loved it. And it was fantastic. But I then wanted to move on to somewhere else. So I moved on to Japan, and I worked in Japan. Now, one thing I should say is I realized after Vietnam that I wanted to do this as a career. So the TEFL qualification had got me abroad and had got me teaching, doing really well, but I decided that I needed to do it for a career, and I didn't have a degree. So I then went back to the UK, did a degree, and then from there, that then allowed me to then do it more longer term, if you see what I mean, because I knew that TEFL was for me. Now, I do not recommend to anybody now to go out and get a degree just to do TEFL. If you're thinking of becoming a TEFL teacher, my recommendation to you is to do something like the TEFL Org's 120-hour certificate. Get yourself that certificate and then see if you like it, because a degree just to become a TEFL teacher is quite a big commitment. And there are a lot of TEFL teachers that I've met in the 20 odd years that I've been teaching who don't do it for very long. They sort of start doing it and it's not actually for them. I would say that probably, people do it for about 5 or 6 years and they've had enough. It's not that many who, like me, are still doing it sort of 20 years later. Now, why is that? Because basically some people don't like teaching. People do it to travel. I originally did this to travel. I didn't do it to teach. I actually, once I got abroad, started teaching, I actually found that I love teaching. So I got the two things out of it of being able to travel and also to teach. So got my degree. Thought, where do I go now? I went to Japan. Worked for about 15 months in Japan and was loving Japan. Japan was a great place. Would really recommend anybody that wants to go and work in Japan. But my time was cut short by the big earthquake that was there a few years ago. I think it's about 10 years ago now. I can't remember. And because of that, we had the Fukushima nuclear disaster as well. Because of that, I lost a lot of contracts because by that time I'd spent a bit of time in Japan working for a company called Westgate. They're a good company to get you through to Japan if you are thinking of doing it. Westgate, Google them, Westgate PLC, great little company to get you out to Japan. But once I was out there, I realized that the best way to make a bit of money in Japan was to be a freelance teacher. And I'd managed to get myself some contracts here and there, all over, got some private students, this kind of thing. But then once Fukushima hit and the tsunami hit, I lost all those contracts because people just basically didn't know what to do and they stopped paying. So Japan's quite an expensive place to sit with no money coming in. It's actually quite a good place for money coming in. I actually saved quite a bit of money in Japan. But if you don't have much cash coming in, Japan can be a bit difficult. And because of that, I moved to Sri Lanka. Okay, I'm going to start talking about Sri Lanka in a bit because I can see some questions in there about Sri Lanka, but I don't want it to just be me yapping on. So please, any questions you have, do put them in. Let's see. The first question is from Saab Jot, I think. I can't see one before that. Alan, can you see one? No, it's not. Thank you, Alan. Once you finish completing TEFL, how do you get a job? Right, so you've got your certificate. The first thing to do, it's like any other job. Now, the jobs won't come to you because you've got the certificate. You need to start applying for them. So I would recommend you do something like go onto our website and you can find some jobs there. So if I just share the page, this is our website, the TEFL Org's website. You can see it here. You know, there's a chat function down the side here to talk to anybody if you want some information. If you're new to it and you want to know about courses, go up there. But to answer Sabjot's question, what you need to do, click on TEFL Jobs here. That'll take you to our TEFL Org Job Centre. And you can find jobs teaching English abroad or online. Still at the moment, a lot of people are online, not teaching abroad kind of thing. But basically, you put the areas of the world that you're sort of interested in looking at. You look at these ones below there, and then you apply. So it is as simple as that. There's no sort of magic way of applying for TEFL jobs that is different from applying for normal jobs. You have to put the legwork in. You have to fill in an application. You have to have an interview, all that kind of thing. That will get you the job. Okay. Good. I hope that answers your question. So let me scroll down a bit there. Hello everyone, I can see everybody. Hello Katsu, I'll talk a bit about Japan in a bit. Rory, I'll talk about Sri Lanka in a bit. Okay, Alex, hello. Any tips on doing an introduction video for an online teaching job? You have to do one to set up your profile on the website in order to get students. Right, I think the very first thing, Alex, is don't try and do it in one take. So when I've done sort of videos where I've had to sell myself a little bit, I think be prepared to critique yourself a little bit. So it's probably going to take 2 or 3 attempts. If you're really worried, you can get it's free. It doesn't cost anything. You can get teleprompter software. So you could have your webcam up here. My webcam's up here. And sometimes I do videos where the teleprompter goes down there like that. I sit back a bit so I can sort of see my eyes. I feel like I'm a newsreader. But that's the sort of thing that you could do. What you need to show is your personality, Alex. So be friendly, be nice, be smiley, get your voice going. Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. My name's Alex. Don't be like this. My name's Alex. People are sold on these videos on your personality. Make sure you can say exactly what you can do for that person. So can you help them pass an exam? Can you help them improve their pronunciation? What are your strengths as a teacher? Get that in the video. Hope that helps you there, Alex. Laura, hello. You've just achieved, Laura Cerrone, hello. You have achieved your level 5 TEFL and like to teach English online. Interesting one. How realistically can you make this job a full-time job? Is it possible? How long would it take? Right. It's a good question. Right. The first thing is what I say to people who are looking to get into teaching online and maybe thinking about doing it as a full-time is keep your options open. So by that, I mean, don't just put all your eggs into one basket, to use an English idiom. Put some, apply for one company and apply for another. Don't just sort of think that you're going to get full-time hours from one company, because something could change with that company that makes you lose those hours, or you don't like that company and you all of a sudden that works. So see if you can work sort of part-time for 1, 2, 3 companies. If you're going to do this realistically long-term, you also need to be setting yourself up as a self-employed full-time teacher. What does that mean? That means setting up your own website, getting people in through that. I do that myself. Now I don't work for any companies. I do some teacher training for TEFL, but I also do some examining for one company. I also do online teaching myself. I do online teacher training. I do video courses. I work for universities. I do lots of different things in order to get work, okay? What you might also find, Laura, is that once COVID is disappearing, that you could be an online teacher and also a face-to-face teacher as well. So look at the language schools that are around you, see if you can find any students locally. It's not going to happen straight away that you're a full-time teacher. It's going to take you a few weeks, maybe a few months, in order to get some full-time hours. Okay, Laura? Hope that helps you. Francesco, any reliable agency to teach in Vietnam? Also for NNE? I don't know what NNE is. Alan, am I being crazy? What is NNE? Is that Northeast? I don't know, perhaps that's showing my age. Or Alan's going to tell me in the chat what that means. Non-native English speaker. Of course. Thank you, Alan. I'm sorry. Right. So agencies in Vietnam, from my experience of working in Vietnam, it was individual language schools, individual universities that were advertising. There wasn't really the agencies. Now that might be different. So Francesca, what you need to do is just go on the job pages and just see who is advertising. So go on hours, TEFL.org. Another good one to go on is eslcaf.com, cafe.com, eslcafe.com. Look on Guardian Jobs. Put that into Google, Guardian TEFL Jobs. You'll be able to find some things like that, okay? Look for those jobs, see if you like them, see if they can fit you. Hope that works for you, okay? There's not really an agency that I can sort of say. Reliable as well, I'm not saying. I worked for a company called RMIT. Worked really well for me, loved it. Jeremy, hello. Can an Asian American find a job in Korea or Japan, or would I experience application bias? Well, that's an interesting one, Jeremy. Right, there are, and I did notice this with some of my colleagues. I also noticed it a bit from not having hair and being a bit of a chubby fella. Okay, there is a East Asia mentality that which is a bit crazy. It can be seen as racist by some people, but it's also like, you can't teach, you are fat. I've heard that before. You can't teach because you don't have hair. I need to have a handsome teacher. I don't want an ugly teacher. I've heard that before as well in East Asia. Okay. So there is unfortunately some sort of bias out there. However, Jeremy, I have taught with many Asian Americans and British Asians and Australian Asians as well, who have worked out in East Asia and with no problem at all. So I really don't think if you've got a strong application, I really don't think you will find application bias. If somebody rejects you, you probably don't want to be working for them, but you will definitely get work. Hannah, hello. You're currently studying a PGCE. Would I need to gain a TEFL qualification to teach abroad? So anybody that doesn't know, a PGCE is basically after you've got your degree, you go and do in the UK, you go and do a 1-year teaching qualification that allows you to either teach in primary schools or senior schools in the UK. So I don't have a PGC, so I can't go and work in the local primary school down the road or the local high school down the road. So would you need to gain... So Hannah, if you want to go and work in an international high school or an international primary school, You probably won't need a TEFL qualification if you're going to teach your subject. So if you are a science teacher and you are going to teach science in that school, and that school delivers its classes in English, you probably won't need a TEFL qualification. If you want to go work in a language school, or if you want to go and work at some university teaching English for academic purposes, you will need a TEFL qualification. Sorry, the focus just went on my computer then. So, Hannah, what I would recommend to you, Hannah, is if you've got the time and if you've got the money, do a TEFL certificate. It will definitely open up your doors more, because some international senior or primary schools also want their teachers to teach English as a foreign language class. So I would recommend you go for it. Okay. Ben, is there a preference? Hello, Ben. Is there a preference on the type of degree? I have a BSc honours, but have read that BAs are preferred for TEFL. No, I don't. I've never ever asked anybody what their degree is in. If they've got their degree, when I've been recruiting people, if they've got a 3-year degree from an English speaking university, because that tends to be the what's needed. Not always, but that is generally what's needed. I don't ever check if it's a BA or BSc. No, I don't think that's a problem. Jeremy, hello Jeremy again. Do I need special business insurance to give private lessons? Not in the UK. No, I've never paid for business insurance. No. I don't know where you are in the world, Jeremy, but in the UK, I've never had that. Larry, hello. How big is the demand for teaching English in China? Well, let me tell you a bit about my time in China, because we've now totally gone off talking about me, which is probably a good thing, to be honest. So I taught in China in a place called Kunming for about 7 or 8 months. I managed to find a short-term contract. Short-term contracts are not as well, they're not as readily available nowadays as it was when I sort of started teaching 20 odd years ago, to be honest with you. So I had a contract in Kunming at a university there. I absolutely loved it. Kunming is towards the south of China. For me, it was very, very culturally crazy. So I worked at a university where I had a flat on campus, but there was these 4 massive tower blocks where all the students lived. You had 2 for the girls, 2 for the boys. The students lived there, pretty much the whole year round. Chinese New Year, they'd go back home and that kind of thing. But what they used to do was they used to play every morning either Celine Dion, My Heart Will Go On, or they would play Happy Birthday, musical versions of both, over the loudspeakers at 7 a.m. and then they would play the same song again at 8 a.m. What that meant was everybody had to wake up at 7 a.m. Everybody had to be out of the tower blocks by 8 a.m. If you were still in the tower blocks, you would get locked into the tower blocks, and you wouldn't be able you'd basically have to sort of say why you weren't up and why you weren't out the door at 8 a.m. All the lessons would then start at about 10 past 8, something like that. And it was just the amount of numbers of people that lived on campus and worked on campus. I also had to get involved in sports and this kind of thing. I taught massive classes. Sort of at some points I had classes of 250 students. Totally unworkable, but that was how they did it. And I absolutely loved it. It was fantastic. China is still the biggest demand, I think, in the world for English. You will find most jobs online and face-to-face are in China. If you have your heart set on somewhere like Shanghai, Beijing, Kunming as well, because it's quite a beautiful place, Hong Kong, lots of competition to get jobs. Also, accommodation costs are quite expensive. You've really got to read the small print of how much you're going to pay for your accommodation, all that kind of thing. If you want a more authentic Chinese experience, although what does that mean? I'm not quite sure. But probably if you want to be more guaranteed work, just sort of have be in sort of a less international city and more of a Chinese style city, you might want to look sort of west of the East Coast, look inland a bit. Somewhere like Xi'an is lovely. Xian, love that place. I would sort of look down that route if I was you, Larry, but there's a massive demand for teaching English in China. Okay. Nicoletta. Hello. Sorry, I went on about China. I could talk for an hour about China. How do I create curriculum material for online students? That's an interesting one. So Nicoletta, so first of all, you need to find out their level. So I'm just talking about general English here. First of all, it depends what level you're at. If you've never done this before, what I would recommend is find a textbook, a general English textbook that covers that level that you are going to teach. So if it's pre-intermediate, and if you open the cover, you will find in the contents the grammar points that are studied at pre-intermediate, some of the vocab, some of the skills that are covered at pre-intermediate level, and you'll find it for beginner, elementary, intermediate, upper intermediate, pre-intermediate, advanced proficiency. And I would just go from that, use that as your base. If you're going down the more specialized English, you could do the same and find like a business English textbook, an EAP textbook, an IELTS textbook, whatever it might be. But I would recommend, first of all, find a textbook, match it up, and you will find generally that the different textbooks written by different people cover the same points at each of the level, and then stick to that. So you think, okay, we've got 10 weeks. I'm going to do this in the first week, this in the second week, this in the third week, something like that. I hope that answers your question, Nicoletta. Maya Barter, hello. How do I find accommodation while traveling and teaching? So so Vietnam, let me think about this. Vietnam, Sri Lanka, not Azerbaijan. They sorted out my accommodation. Vietnam, Sri Lanka. I'm trying to think if there's any countries where I've had to sort out my own accommodation. Vietnam, I had to. The university put me up for 2 weeks in a hotel, and they gave me a few days off within that 2 weeks to go and find accommodation. They also had somebody that worked in the office to do that. Japan, I had my contract with Westgate. They sorted out my accommodation. But after that contract was finished, I had to find my own accommodation. Sri Lanka, the company I worked for, the British Council, set me up for 2 weeks accommodation, gave me a few days off to find accommodation, and I found my own flat. Everywhere I've worked where I've had to find my own accommodation, there has been somebody in the office, a local person, who has been willing to help me do it. Okay. They are basically, it's part of their job descriptions to find the teacher's accommodation. All right. So I think that's the first thing. If you're going to be the sort of digital nomad and sort of teach yourself around the world, then you'll have to find your own accommodation. Every country has slightly different ways of finding accommodation. Japan is an absolute nightmare for finding accommodation. You have to give gifts to the local people who own the apartment, extra money, to say thank you so much for allowing me to stay in your apartment. Here, have some extra months rent, that kind of thing. Vietnam was quite easy. I just sort of signed a contract that was in Vietnamese. I trusted my life, went all okay. Generally, if you're worried about this, Maya, in the job interview, it's one of the questions to ask. Is my accommodation going to be sorted? Or if not, will you help me to find it? If they're like, no, your accommodation won't be included, no, we won't help you, and that's somewhere like China, somewhere like Vietnam, that would set me a bit of alarm bells ringing, because really they should be able to help you. Google is probably your friend. Look on Facebook groups, expat groups for those countries. Joanna Wilk, hello. Are you able to pay your bills only working online? I don't know what you mean by this, Joanna. So I went through a period of only teaching fully online myself. So I started working for a company. I didn't really enjoy it. I started finding my own students. And I went through a period of finding my own students, and that paid for my bills and more. However, I do live in quite a cheap part of the United Kingdom. I live in Northern Ireland. My outgoings aren't huge. If I lived in London, where I was from, the teachers on normal wages struggle to buy a house, pay rent in London. TEFL teachers, similar way. Okay. But then I sort of went down the route of doing lots of jobs for other companies, really enjoyed it. So I have quite a varied TEFL career, and I easily pay my bills. I easily do pretty well from TEFL economically. I know people that do pay it, but I don't know how much your bills are, Joanna. That's the key thing, all right? How much are your outgoings, all right? You're not going to be mega rich from being a teacher. You're not. Okay? Are you going to be able to pay the bills? I'm pretty sure. Generally, if you work hard, you're going to be able to pay the bills. Dan, lovely. Good question, this one. Did I have any problems with friends or family not wanting you to live abroad? Oh, don't make me hungry. I want a Big Mac. Any advice for people that are having problems with family not wanting them to live abroad? It's your life, Dan, is my advice. Absolutely fine. Listen, I have never had that resistance. I've been very lucky that all my friends and all my family have said to me, go. Perhaps they don't like me, but they've always said to me, just go, 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 go. Some have been out to visit me, that kind of thing. It's lovely. I do, however, realise that I'm lucky maybe like that. If the advice I would give to them is I would sit them down and ask, what are your problems? If it's you're going to be away from them, they're not going to see you, then that is an issue that you kind of sort of have to sort out yourself. I'm not really sure how you could do that. All right, Dan. If it's because they're worried about money or because they're worried about safety, my advice to you is I have been all around the world. The only place where I've ever been mugged has been in London. You know, I've never ever had any problems around the world where I've got sick, all that kind of thing myself. All right. So I think it's kind of a personalized thing, Dan, but I would say that generally you're pretty safe wherever you go around the world. All right. Tanesha, hello. Is there a large demand for business English in Japan? Yes, there is a large demand for business English in Japan. I worked for some language schools where they gave me work as in the business English, and I also found some business English classes myself. It's a lot of competition for business English because it pays better, but it's definitely one of the big things that you would do. And if you get a job working for a language school or a university or something like that in Japan, you will probably teach business English. Okay. Sarah, hello. How long does the certificate last for? And do you have to keep renewing it? The certificate lasts all your life, I think. Alan, please put that in the chat if I've got that totally wrong, but I'm pretty sure that TEFL certificate never runs out. Jeremy, how many people apply for, let me just check that question. Yes, it's valid for life. Thank you, Alan. How many people apply for each job? How competitive is it to get a job? What's the jobs in Korea pop up all the time spread out through the year instead of having one start date? Whoa, big questions there, Jeremy. How many people apply for each job? I have no idea. If you are worried about this, what you got to think, Jeremy, is, are you happy to work in places where people don't want to live maybe so much? If this is your worry. Now, I'm not saying you should do this. I'm just saying if this is a worry that you have. For example, Japan, everybody wants to live in Tokyo. Massive competition for jobs in Tokyo. Kyoto, my favorite place in the world, less competition for jobs. Okay. Hokkaido, beautiful place. Less competition for jobs because people don't know about it. Lots of people want to go to Tokyo. Lots of people apply for the job. Lots of competition. Korea, it would be Seoul. I'm guessing Busan as well, but I don't know. But Seoul, definitely. I've never worked in Korea. Been there, never worked in Korea. So I don't know how competitive it would be. But from teaching and from managing schools around the world, I know, for example, I lived in Iraq and we had jobs. We had a great economic situation in Iraq. Now, I realise when you say the word Iraq, IRAK, people get worried. But it was also similar in Azerbaijan. Great economic money. You know, the money I made there and in Azerbaijan was fantastic. Paid for house deposits. Not many people applied there. Why? Even though they could see 60, 70,000 pounds a year tax-free, they could see that it was in Iraq. They didn't want to have anything to do with it. Best teaching job almost of my life. I absolutely loved it there. I would happily go back and live in Iraq. The jobs in Korea, they just, because people, where they, I would say it's not just a Korean thing. I would say it's probably an all the way thing. Like, I think that companies recruit all the year. The big recruiters will recruit all the year. Okay, and people leave in the middle of the term. They might need someone for the middle of the term, that kind of thing. I wouldn't worry too much about that, Jeremy. Just find a job, keep going for it. Okay. John, I don't know the name of my teleprompter software. I'll have to find that out. John, send a message to the Facebook page. That'll remind me, okay, to do it. All right. Katsu, hello. Can you teach in Japan with an EU passport? Yes, I think you can teach with an EU passport. So if you've got like a French, Right, Japan, to get a work visa, you need to have a degree, but there is a way around that if you don't have a degree, because you can get a working holiday visa. So look up the working holiday visa. You should be eligible for that. Loads of stuff on our website about that, Katsu. Jordan, you have noticed that most ESL companies don't even pay minimum wage. Do you have any suggestions for online teaching platforms that are more lucrative? The only way I think to make more money is to set yourself up yourself and get your own students. Okay, build your own website, look into marketing, find your own students, that kind of thing. You can make 30, 40. I've charged £50 an hour for some classes. Okay, Jordan, you got to think that the industry going online has opened up the industry to the world. So for you, you might think it's not that much. For somebody who lives in Thailand, they might think it's quite a bit of money. They might think it's quite a bit of Indian people might think that's all loads of money. So, you know, wherever you are in the world, I don't know, Jordan, but you might find it's not enough for you. I'm sorry about that. Find your own students, see if you can work it out that way. Okay. There's somebody in there. Oh, sorry. No, Aisha, hello. Right now, which currently hiring teachers from abroad? Have a look on our website, Aisha. You'll be able to see what the companies that are advertising. Okay. Alex, hello. Is there any way to persuade the students to pay? As I have had a few students just wanting the free lessons and don't want to pay. Yeah. Unfortunately, that is frustrating. Time wasters is an absolute nightmare. I charge £1 for my trial lessons. And if they don't want to pay the £1, if they say other people are free, then that's annoying. I'm sorry, but I don't do anything for free. My time is important to me. Look at your advertising. Look at where you're trying to get your students. Are they coming from countries that maybe don't have much money? When I started, I spent a lot of money advertising in India. I don't know why I did, but I did spend a lot of money advertising in India. Indian people don't have as much money as I thought they might have done at the time. Bad. Learn from your marketing mistakes. Loads and loads of time wasters. Didn't want to pay. Blah 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 blah. It's a difficult one. Look at where you're trying to get your students from, Alex. It's my advice. Go for the richer countries. Aisha, is a PGCE equivalent to a bachelor's? No, I think that right. In the UK, we have a special certificate called a PGCE, which allows you to teach in senior schools and primary schools. If you've just got a bachelor's in education, I don't think that allows you in the UK to teach in primary schools and senior schools. Might allow you abroad. We are an industry where we look for teaching English as a foreign language. We don't train people up to go work as a senior school teacher in a specialized subject. Now, if you've got your 120-hour certificate from us, you might be able to go and work in these schools as a TEFL teacher, but you wouldn't be able to necessarily go and teach chemistry or geography or history, something like that. Those kind of things, they definitely want a PGCE. They might just get behind a bachelor's in education. It's not something that we cover, Aisha. Okay. Magwacat, have I got that one? Hi from North East Scotland. Tarif. As a retired person, perhaps I'll be considered too old. I don't. No. For what? Magwacat. For what? For teaching English. Going abroad, there is an upper limit on the working holiday visa. Sorry, on the visa, which tends to be around 65 years old. I don't know how old you are, but you could definitely go teach online. Definitely. Winnie, I don't think I'm going to be able to talk anymore. The questions are coming in. Lovely. Keep them coming. Winnie, you plan to teach someone in China when you finish TEFL course. I was wondering, how does tax work if I start teaching online for a company? What about freelancers, self-employed? Right. Tax, everything I say, you need to check. I don't want you going to prison for not paying your tax. Winnie, the rules as I see them is if the country in China is taxing you at source, so they are paying your wages after they've taken the tax cut, then you don't need to pay tax in the UK, is what I think. Now, if you then find your own students, you're getting your own money, there's no tax that's been taken anywhere, you need to pay tax on that. So when I get my students from the UK, I pay tax on it. Okay? All right, that's how I see it. You need to check wherever you are in the world, Winnie, what your tax rules are, because the tax rules. I'm in Northern Ireland. If I go 40 minutes down the road, down the motorway, I'm in Ireland. Tax rules are very different. Ayesha, hello again. From which organisation do you need to apply a TEFL course? Well, thank you for asking that one, Ayesha. I'm going to show you the best, in my opinion, the best place to get your TEFL certificate from. Go to TEFL.org. Hopefully you can see it up here, the TEFL org. That's where you can get people training you like myself, who are very well experienced, who have loads of qualifications in TEFL. I've got a CELTA, Delta Masters, all this kind of thing. You go on it, TEFL courses. You can find all the information about them. You can do the 120-hour course. You could also do a combined online practical one, that kind of thing, and go from there. Look at that. We've got 50% off. Whoa, what a bargain that is on a Friday, Aisha. Check to see if they are accredited. Okay, that's my key thing. Check whoever you're going to pay your money to get your TEFL course. Make sure they are accredited by people who go and check the course to make sure it is good quality. Okay. There are people out there who provide TEFL courses and they are not accredited courses. You might find when you got your certificate, you can't get work with it because it's not accredited. So do your research, check it all out. Matthew, hello. You'd love to teach online and teach abroad. Is there a TEFL certificate for both? Well, yeah, the 120-hour certificate will cover you for teaching English online, but will also cover you for teaching abroad. What you might find you want to do is add on some modules, which is possible for, I don't know, for example, young learners is a big market when teaching abroad. It's also a market online, but you might want to find a practical course, which will then set you up for teaching online and also teaching abroad. Ma, hello. Is there any chance in Japan or China without a bachelor's degree and a non-native speaker to get a job? China's difficult. Japan is probably more easier, or just easier, not more easier. Ma, reason being is because in Japan, you can do something called a working holiday visa. So what that allows you to do is travel around Japan and also do some work. So you can go there without a degree. You can get that. That allows you to work legally in Japan once you're out there, or even before. If you email some companies, you can then find a language school, get a bit of work here, a bit of work there, that kind of thing. The downside of it is you can't stay for a long time over there, like somebody would who, if you fall in love with Japan, you might only be able to stay there for 3-6 months, something like that. In one job, I think it is. So you would need to then probably get a degree to go back to Japan and live forever. However, I don't know if once you're out there, you can then be offered a visa if you go out there on a working holiday visa, if you can then be offered a long time one by a company. You need to research that one yourself, Ma. Put into our TEFL org page, we've got a search thing there on the blog pages about non-native speakers teaching abroad and also teaching in Japan without a degree. You'll find stuff on there. China is slightly more difficult. Okay, I don't know if it's almost impossible to teach in China without a degree. I don't know. You need to do your research on that one. Okay. Isadora, hello. Can you teach English when being from non-native speaking? So you could definitely, if you live in England, you could find work in England teaching for sure. So local language schools, local summer schools in the summer, that kind of thing. There's loads of work. There's definitely, if you want to then go abroad, yep, for sure. So if you've got a British passport, you at the moment can, oh no, you can't. Brexit. You could apply, I think, more easily to get work in Europe. You could definitely go, I think, with a bit of work, go and find work in Spain, France, this kind of thing. Teaching online, not a problem. Yeah, I think you could definitely find work. James, lovely question. What was the work-life balance like when you worked abroad? Really depends on where you live. So in Japan, when I worked for some schools, I was the first school I went and worked for. They made us do punch in the times. So before 9, I would have to log into a website and show that I was there. And then I was expected to stay there till sort of 6 o'clock. Loads of hours even though I wasn't actually teaching on that time, I was expected to be there. Work-life balance, not that great. When I worked for a university in Vietnam, they didn't care if I turned up 10 minutes before, would finish 10 minutes, and I'd be out of the office 10 minutes afterwards. Only sort of be there for 4 hours a day. Loved it. When I worked in Iraq, I only worked 3 days a week. Brilliant work-life balance. So it really does depend on the country. You know, the cultural stuff is kind of true. In Japan, it's in a way, it's more out, the quantity is better than quality. You know, Vietnam, slightly more relaxed, that kind of thing. What you need to find out, James, is how much holiday you get, how long the terms are, and then how much time off you get. Will you get paid for that time off? Some universities, some language schools work every day of the year. Some, they're closed, but you get paid. So it really does depend on you and where you go and work, James. Alison, hello. You've got, that's a really long question. Right, so the pay in a reasonable rate is an issue for people in the UK, I think, generally. All right, so it really does depend what sort of money you are looking for and sort of what your expenses are. I find that I can live pretty well on any online work I get. I know that some people in some parts of the UK do struggle. If you want to do this long term, you've got to find your own students in the UK. You've got to. That is the only way where you will eventually get good money coming in. All right. We've covered, I can see a load of questions there about, I can see loads of questions about non-native speakers. All right. And I understand that this is a big thing that people are interested in. Okay. I've done videos before about how to teach abroad if you are a non-native speaker. Okay. But also, I'm just going to show you on our website. If you go again, we're back on this one, tfl.org. If you go to the blog page, so across the top here, if you click on blog, it should, hopefully it does, take you to there. If you type in there, non-native speakers, because I could talk for non-native speakers for absolutely ages. You click on search, that helps, doesn't it, to click on search when you put something into a search bar. Loads of stuff there about non-native speakers, loads of how people can get work as a non-native speaker. Really recommend you do that one. Okay. Francesco, as the competition has skyrocketed, that's a lovely English EFL phrase. What do I foresee in the future? Let me look in my crystal ball, my head is very crystal-like. I think that at the moment there's lots of people out of work, and I think that people are getting into TEFL because they want to pay the bills. Once COVID is gone, maybe people will go back to their other jobs, bar work, hotel work. You know, lots of industries are in trouble. I think that at the moment there's lots of competition, but I think as soon as everyone's got the vaccine, the competition's all going to go. That's what I think, Francesco. I am not known for my predictions, though. Ayesha, can we highlight that one because it's, as far as I know, not true. You've put China not hiring non-native teachers because border closed. Border not open yet. I have got a friend who started working in China a couple of weeks ago. The borders are open. What they do is they make you quarantine. Okay? All right? That's what you need to do. Okay? It's not true that China's not hiring. That's a crazy fake news thing that's going around the world. Alison, I think I answered your question. Find your own students. India, what are your tips on starting your TEFL career? That's a lovely question. Right. My recommendation is, first of all, if you are completely new to the world and you've got no work experience, you need to be finding some volunteer TEFL jobs. So, you know, if you're sort of 18, 19 years old and you're sort of fresh out of school, then you've got first of all, you need to get your qualification. That is a very first step. Everybody needs to get this certificate in their hand. You've got to put the work in to pass the course. All right. That's the first thing you've got to do. Then you have to apply for jobs. If you are new to TEFL, you've got no work experience in any industry, see if you can look around you and find local jobs that people are teaching. All right. So, so for example, you might find some refugees that live near you, India. I don't know where you are in the world, who you can go and teach for free volunteer work, do that a couple of hours a week, really fulfilling, great work. You would then be able to put that on your CV. That will help you to get hired. Okay. If, however, you do have a bit of work experience in various things, think, does any of your job experience match to speaking in public, to training people, to helping people, all this sort of thing? Because that can be good to put on your CV. So, for example, I don't know, my first job, I worked in McDonald's. I trained people how to use the till. That is a little bit of teaching. Put that down, that kind of thing. Highlight that on your CV. I had to do sales. Another job, I worked in Halford selling bikes. I put that on my CV because that was a customer facing role where I had to deal with people. I had to show them how to do things, that kind of thing. Put that in there. All right. Tim, for China, what level of Chinese would you recommend for teaching? Mine is pretty basic. I lived there very happily with absolutely no Chinese, Tim. Everywhere I've worked, I've not had any of the language. By the end of it, I might have had some language, but I always started every single country with no level of the local language. Vietnam, I was terrible. I left Vietnam with no Vietnamese. Really bad. You don't need to do any, you don't need to have the local language in order to teach there. To live there is slightly different. You know, you might want to get phrase books out and that kind of thing, but you don't need to know the local language in order to live there. Angela, what's my favourite activity for 20-something-year-old business students? I don't know if it's any different business students. I think you've got to have an activity you like. I love doing something called grammar auctions. I love doing that, but I also think business students, I think, you know, something like presentation skills, that sort of thing is great. Definitely, I can see in your next message, upper intermediate students, I definitely think presentations, they love that, kills time in the classroom as well. James, what was my experience of carrying out everyday tasks such as shopping, dining, eating out, commuting when you didn't speak any of the native language? It was absolutely fine. I absolutely loved it. I loved in Japan the craziness of all the stations, the not being, you know, you just can't let it fluster you. Okay, you know, take the time, get your phrasebook out, get your mobile phone translation out, get yourself going. You'll be surprised how willing people are to help you. Never had a problem. Good. Laura, how long is a lesson? My screen just did that. How long is an online lesson? Half an hour? How long's a piece of string? Some people make you teach for 3 hours. Some make you teach for 50 minutes. Some make you teach for half an hour. Really does depend. There's no answer to that. But I would say anything, I never do longer than 50 minutes without a break. Okay. India. Have I got any advice about doing the internships or the course itself and finding your own work? I don't know much about the internships, to be honest. I know that there are some that we offer, but I don't know much about them. If you're going to do this long term, India, then I think finding your own work, having more control is definitely. You need to get that certificate. Definitely, that's my opinion. Okay. Nathan, once you finish your TEFL, would you recommend volunteering first and getting a job? No, not at all. I think you could easily, if you feel confident, jump straight into applying for jobs. I really don't think that's a problem. I don't think that's an issue. However, if you want to build your confidence, or if, for example, you want to go abroad and you don't want to teach online, you don't want to teach online full time, that kind of thing, see if you can find people locally who you can teach. But it's up to you. Volunteering is a lovely way to get a bit of experience because they're not paying anything, so they're not expecting much. Doesn't matter if you make any mistakes. And RefuNet, REFUNET, is the best place to find refugees, local people volunteering online. But if not, I would recommend contacting local churches, local mosques, that kind of thing, seeing if they know any local refugees who you can help. Aloha, you're a nurse. I've lost your question. Sorry, Jeremy. That's really... No one's ever asked me this one. Let's put that one up, Alan. That's a crazy one. Are 25-yard swimming pools accessible around Japan and Korea? They have swimming pools in Japan and Korea. Is that your question, Jeremy? They have swimming pools in there. If you've got tattoos in Japan, they might not let you swim. But those countries have TEFL teachers. Emma, has there been a significant increase in people taking a certificate due to the pandemic? Yeah, yes, I would say yes. There's more people definitely becoming TEFL teachers, but there's also more demand. So while the number of people doing it, also the demand has gone up. Okay. Alua, you're a nurse by background. Some nurses did a diploma, then a few years later did a top-up degree. Is this situation one applies for TEFL job in the country that requires a degree? Would it matter whether a 3-year degree or a top-up degree? You got to check that yourself. I think it's got to be 3 years, Alua. I think most work visas want people to have a 3-year degree, but you need to check that. Dan, hello. Do you need a certain amount of money to take with you to teach in Japan? I think for the working holiday visa, you've got to have a certain amount of money in order to cover your visa costs, and also to show that you'll be able to, like, for example, you've got to be able to show that you got $5,000 in the bank. I don't know if it's $5,000. That's just the number I've picked off the top of my head. I think to get the work visa, you don't need to have a certain amount of money. I don't think. Like, some schools will give you some money when you arrive, like as an advance, and they will cover things like your accommodation and that kind of thing, your upfront costs. Some don't. So you need to find that out. I would never, ever arrive anywhere without enough money or enough credit cards credit to get me through a couple of months, to be honest. All right. There are quite often quite a few costs, and sometimes it can take 6 to 8 weeks before you get your first paycheck when you go abroad because of the visa situation, opening a bank account, all this kind of thing. So my recommendation to you, now I know people that do go abroad without any money and live really cheaply, absolutely no problem, but my recommendation to you would be to have at least some sort of credit card to get you through. Okay. All right. There we go. Winnie, yes, you can work for more than one online company at once. Don't tell them that you go work for any companies. Yeah, how would they check? I don't think they would check. Emma, I think I've answered your question. Jeremy, nice one. Is there a significant pay raise teaching with both a TEFL and a PGCE? Yeah, people with PGCEs tend to earn more than people with just a TEFL. I don't have a PGCE though. Okay. Good. I'm glad everyone's enjoying their course. Thank you. Alua, what is the best way to find a decent paying TEFL job in countries such as Italy, Spain? Lots of people wanting the money today. Lots of people chasing the money. You know, if you go work on the oil rigs or something like that, if you really want to be mega rich. TEFL is not about being rich. He says from his tiny spare bedroom office. Alua, what's the best way to find a decent paying TEFL job in countries like Italy, Spain? Right. Italy, they pay their local teachers poorly. So, you go in there as a TEFL teacher, you're not going to make a huge amount of money. Teachers in Italy generally don't get paid much money. They're not valued much. Spain, I know the best way, I think, is to get your own private students. So when I've worked in Spain as an examiner, you get your own private students and you find them. That's the best way of making a bit of money in Spain. Probably the same in Italy, but I think it's more difficult from what I've heard. Greece, I have no idea. Once you've been doing TEFL for a while, you can start applying for jobs like examiner jobs, and you can start applying for teacher training jobs. Those sort of jobs make you more money than just standard teaching. But you're not going to be able to do that straight off. You've got to be a teacher in order to train teachers. Okay. Squirrel Munchkin. I was wondering whether you'd pop up Squirrel Munchkin. I love your name. How do you teach online with different time zones? So you have to wake up at whatever time they wake up, Squirrel Munchkin. There's nothing you can do about it. So they quite often teach they quite often learn before school in China. You got to be up before, at 2 a.m, whatever time it might be. They learn after school. You got to teach at 9 a.m, whatever it might be with the time difference. Saturday mornings, big time for teaching English. In China, lots of schools open on a Saturday morning. You might have to be up at 2 a.m. There's not much you can do about it. Alua, do I need a degree to teach in UAE, Dubai? I don't know that one. Alan, I don't know whether you know that one. I don't think it's as strict in Dubai as it is in sorry, you do need a degree to teach in the United Arab Emirates. There's your answer, Alua. Winnie, another China question. Perhaps we should just, Alan, should we just do one just on China? When a school or university helps you and issues you a work visa, how long does that visa last for? So it's usually for the duration of your contract. So that's usually, if they offer you a 1-year contract, your work visa lasts for a year. That's generally how it works. Okay. Facebook user, 30? You're 30 next year. Is this too old? I'm 41. Don't show off that you're younger. No, it is definitely not too old. John, a grammar auction. Oh, okay. Basically, you put phrases, Google it. There's loads of stuff on grammar auctions. You put phrases up on a whiteboard, something like that. They have to bid money if they can correct the grammar or if they can tell you what's wrong. And whoever bids the most money, they then correct it. If they've got it, they get the sentence, they get a point, and they also get to keep the money, blah, 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 blah. Whoever's got the most money left at the end, whoever's got the most points is the winner. Aisha, the only website I've shown is tefl.org. That's all you need. You're 62, too old to find work in China. However, your wife is Chinese and we'd like to spend around 3 months a year there. Would I perhaps find work online whilst in China? Would no visa be an issue? Could you get a spouse visa? I don't know if that's possible if you've got a Chinese wife. Yeah, you could teach online whilst in China. Yeah, I think you could. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, that's a very specialized question, Facebook user. Iman, hello. Hi, Carl. Everyone needs to learn English to teach English, but what is your recommendation about you want to learn Arabic to non-speakers Arabic? What about this? Good idea, not thanks, dear. I'm trying to pick apart your question. Could have done with a comma in the middle there, Iman. I think, yes. So if you want to teach your own language, then definitely you can become Iman, the Arabic teacher. Yeah, the theory of teaching the language is the same. It's just instead of teaching English, you teach Arabic as a foreign language. There we go. Ben, for a full-time TEFL job, how many hours would be in a typical work week? So contact hours are what you need to look for. And contact hours is an hour when you're actually in front of students. I don't recommend anything more than 25 contact hours in a week. That will then give you time for teaching, for marking and for prep. If you're seeing 30, 35 hours contact, alarm bells, you're going to be knackered, Ben. So keep yourself between 20 and 25. And then that gives you time to prep and all that kind of thing. Iona, hello. How does accommodation work with TEFL? Are you in the same accommodation? So it depends where you are in the world. When I've worked in China in some universities, yes. So you wouldn't share a bedroom, but you might share a flat with some local teachers, or it depends whether they allow you to find your own accommodation. But some places want you to live close to the students. Other parts of the world, you are absolutely free to get your own accommodations, and some teachers share to bring down the costs, but others don't. Okay. Joanna, how long ago did you make my TEFL certificate? Oh, a long time ago. Which one? I'd have to dig it out. I can't remember whether it was TEFL org or not. I've got a funny feeling it wasn't, but I don't know. Sorry, I shouldn't probably say that. They're not going to invite me back, are they? Jordan, I'm definitely not a comedian, although my wife does laugh at me a lot. Katsu, you know that speaking Japanese is not necessarily, but does it help to find a job in Japan? Is that an advantage? So once you've... Right. The best paying jobs in Japan are in the universities. And you're not necessarily doing conversation classes. They're what a lot of TEFL jobs are in Japan. They're not overly... I mean, they're well paid, but they're not the best paid. So, you know, once you start getting into like the writing classes or the lecturing classes or that kind of thing, you need to have Japanese to a really, really good level in order to get those jobs. And I'm talking, those are sort of the permanent 20-year contracts, $60,000, $70,000 a year sort of thing. Okay. However, I never did that, and I still had a lovely time in Japan, a great time in Japan. All right. Lots of questions about Japan. I don't know whether we did. I think a few weeks ago, Alan, we did one about teaching in Japan, but maybe that's something we need to do again. what should you know before moving to Japan to teach? You should know what contract you've got and how many hours you're going to do, Lucy. Don't let them get too much. You need to find out what hours you're going to teach. Is it going to be split shifts? That's a big thing. Are you going to have classes first thing in the morning and late at night? Absolutely knackering, but that's a big part of living in Japan. The other thing that I would say to you is it's not going to cost you as much as you fear. Okay. Nathan, I'm just going to finish it. I'm going to run out of time. We only do an hour and they're going to keep going. Thank you, everybody. I'm sorry if I haven't got to your questions, but they're only they're coming in quite late into this one. But my last one, I'm going to finish with this because I didn't get a chance to really talk about it. What was one of the best life experiences I have had with TEFL? So my best life experience I had with TEFL was working in Iraq. So I taught, there was kind of, but generally there wasn't a functioning proper university in the place where I was living in Iraq. So the Iraqi government was using their oil money to send people to do masters, PhDs abroad. And my job was to get them their English up to a certain level in order to get them out of the country, in order to get them studying abroad. And I can remember a student who said to me, I need to get out of Iraq because I have daughters. And if I stay here, my daughters are going to have a terrible life and I don't want them to have a terrible life. I need you, Carl, to get me out of the country in order for my daughters to have a nice, free life. And we did. And that was fantastic. And, you know, that really made a difference to that guy and to those people's lives. The best experiences I have are generally classes or courses where people get to further their life somehow. I've taught in some places that are quite poor, and getting someone through an exam can really boost their life prospects. And that is what I love. Okay. So I'm really sorry. Sri Lanka, Rory, I'll quickly tell you about Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is a difficult country to get to, but you might have a look at some of the British Council jobs. They might be able to get you. There are lots of local language schools. Look outside of Colombo to places like Kandy, up north. Really great time. You'll really, really love it. There's loads of great life experiences you can have in Sri Lanka. I'm really sorry, Rory, that I didn't get to it. But Sri Lanka was good fun. And I really enjoyed it. Okay. Sorry if I didn't really tell you enough about that, Rory. But look for British Council jobs in Sri Lanka. You might be able to get some. Thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend. I'm really sorry if I didn't get to your questions. I can see them all there, but we've only got an hour. Bye, everybody. Really sorry I didn't get your questions.